Hi.
Hi,
Welcome back.
welcome back. Try this again. Last week didn't work out as well as we thought.
Yeah, can I just explain that very quickly?
Sure.
So, for those that don't know, we bought a second mic a long time ago, and we've been running off two mics, and I've been doing an okay job at the audio. It's not been the best audio, but my particular mic loves to pick up all of the sounds in the room, and we were getting a really bad echo between myself talking, and then when Bec speaks into her mic, my mic would also pick her up and cause an echo, and the filters were giving me an absolute nightmare. But I think I've got it sorted, and hopefully this podcast sounds a little bit tidier than the previous.
You worked very hard this week on that.
I spent a lot of time watching
you
YouTube
did.
videos.
So hopefully it's better. Please let us know if it is.
Yes,
That would
please.
be really helpful.
I'd appreciate it. I really would.
Yeah. Do you want to do like a recap of the week? How was your week?
Well, I had a pretty crazy week after I delivered that training for military the week before, which we didn't really get to talk about because that last podcast got eaten by bad audio. So that was really good. And then just the week gone, I just had a really good week with some guys from the Gold Coast Council. Easy training. The guys were all a lot of fun. They hung a lot of shit on each other, which makes the room stay awake. Yeah. And then besides that, I've slept well, trained every day. Everything's been good.
Can't complain.
How are you?
Good. 2 weeks in the new job. It's been good.
It's exciting.
Came back from holidays, and we talked about this in the episode that didn't get uploaded. My holiday in South Australia was awesome, but came back stressed.
Straight into a new job.
Yeah, but feeling really good now. Yeah, everything is. I had a good 2 weeks. Last week was definitely better than the week before, so that's good.
Yeah. You getting back was a little bit stressful because you flew back on the Sunday, because we discussed this in the last podcast, but nobody else saw it. You got back on the Sunday night at like 10 or 11 o'clock and then straight up at 5:30 in the morning to go straight into your new position.
Yeah, and also actually one thing that I had to do within that first week was my SIBO testing. So I also was restricted with what I could eat for the week. So I was grumpy, to say the least. But that's okay. We're actually going to talk about that as a whole episode, I think.
SIBO.
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, it's small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. So I'm going to see a naturopath about that. And have my appointment in 2 weeks' time. So we will, I'll document that.
Yeah, I
which
feel
will be
like
cool.
it's a much bigger problem than most people probably think. It sounds like, because I know that I had this thought a long time ago, and I know a lot of people probably do, that naturopaths are just witch doctors that are just working off assumptions and not really much science. But I think with all the processed food that we eat, having a bacterial infection growing and living in your stomach as its own little ecosystem, I think it's actually a pretty big, real problem. Everyone has. I think everyone has it to a level of some sort, unless you're eating completely organic.
Well, even then, I think you could still get it. Because also, like, antibiotics, and there's so many different things. But we will have an episode on that.
Yes.
I think that'd be really good.
This episode is going to be about societal standards.
Yeah, so we've actually decided we're going to change it up a little bit in how we structure the podcast, I suppose.
Beck wants a little bit more organisation.
Yeah, typical me.
So we're going to structure some of these and have actual planned out events, not events, planned out subjects for the podcast with Bec and I. And then the podcast that I have friends and I don't even know what you'd call them, acquaintances that I'm going to get more familiar with. I still would like to do the
Longer ones.
Yeah, the long, unplanned, just talking shit for however long and seeing where the conversation lands. So
Yeah. But for today, societal standards. It's something that we just randomly thought of.
what were the two that you wrote down?
So it's going to be relationships and work.
Work.
And when I say relationships, I think the one that comes to mind for me straight up is marriage. Everyone thinks, society thinks you should get married, right?
Yes, I would definitely agree.
And what's your view on that?
I think my view is probably a little bit stronger than yours is.
Yeah, but that's fine.
So in my opinion, marriage is it was a transaction between two families, that one family would receive an asset, being
The woman.
the woman, and the other family would receive other sorts of assets like goats or sheep or,
Yeah.
or some sort. And then that family would then have an alliance because essentially one family's provided the other with some sort of food or product. The other family has received a fit and healthy wife to produce children because that's essentially what they were bartered for back in the dark ages. And ever since, it's just, I don't know, as society's gotten softer and softer, not that I'm suggesting it's a bad thing we have, but as we've gotten to this point where there's far more equality, for whatever reason, it's become a huge thing, especially for women, that, you know, as you get older, you're supposed to get married. And I definitely understand that from the perspective of back in the day when the women in general, their primary role in a household was to bear and raise children. That was what happened. And in that respect, marriage was a fantastic thing because it ensured that the husband stayed around.
Yeah.
It legally obliged the man to be there and to support and help that woman, because without that, like any relationship is dangerous then for a woman.
Yeah.
Because the man could just drop him some kids and then piss off, and what's she going to do, fight him for money? Like where is the backup for her? So I understand that it served a purpose at that stage, but I think with like today's day and age, like if we had a child, we're not married, I would still have an obligation to look after that child, like without that signature to the government that says we are in a formal relationship.
Only if you decide to, though.
Yes, but in which case I'd still be hunted for
Only if I decide
child
though.
support. To hunt me for
As
child
well,
support.
correct.
Yeah, but you still have that option to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is unfortunately because you bear the child.
Yeah.
You're forced. Your hand is forced in that position. You can't just like give birth to a child and be like, yeah, can you just like deliver this to the husband? Because like
Yeah.
I don't want this to be my problem every single day. That's not an option that you get as a woman, being that you birth the child, you have to breastfeed. I say breastfeed. You don't have to breastfeed. You know, it's obviously the going thing. That's what's best. But because the child's lumped on you in the first instance, that arrangement where marriage kept the husband around, it was forced him into like a legal obligation. I think it was then perfect. But I don't think that's the way that we operate today
So you haven't really said what your actual opinion is.
on marriage.
Yeah.
I think that was my opinion. That it's not.
So you don't think it's necessary?
I don't think it's no. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it because I understand that it's something that women love. And
I don't think it's not just about the women though.
give me one example of where it's like,
I feel like because you're bringing your two families together, and to me, it's like you're showing everyone in your life, so like your family and friends, that you're committed to that person. Not that you're already not committed to that person, but then it's just like them witnessing it properly, and also then being like, "You're my husband." Like that's just cool. I don't know. I just like it.
you're literally defending the standard now, which is fine.
Yeah, and I'm not saying and this is the thing. The whole point of this is to talk about what our different opinions are. We
Yeah.
don't have to have the same
no,
one.
no, we don't.
However, would you get married?
I would get married, but I think it's silly.
There you go, everyone. You heard it here first.
I do. I think it's silly. It's.
I know that we have spoken about it, and like, I get it to a certain extent because I feel like there's a lot of pressure that when you get married, everything changes. But it shouldn't change because all you've done is you've potentially changed your last name, you've got a piece of jewelry, and you now have the same last name. Did I already say that?
Yeah.
Same last name, piece of paper, and jewelry.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
So then I don't get then why so many of them then turn to shit after they get married. Like, let's say they've been together for 10 years, get married, and then we'll get divorced.
I reckon there was dissatisfaction before the marriage.
You would think so.
There would have to be, I would say that 99% of the time they're going into they're thinking that the marriage is somehow going to fix it.
Yeah, which is so
incorrect.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
which is
wrong.
not. I actually saw a comedian that she said that she tried to have one of those like relationship saving babies.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't work either.
Yeah, but all she said that all she had was one of those useless ones that shits everywhere. She obviously didn't mean it, but it was very funny.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't save it. But then I think the divorce rate's a lot higher too now than what it used to be.
It's 3 out of 4. It's 3 out of 4. I'm pretty sure.
See, and that's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine if 3 out of 4, like, and everyone is signing up for it. Everyone wants to get married, but
I think some people get married for the wrong reasons.
But what
too.
if 3 out of 4 parachutes didn't open? Would you go skydiving?
It's a fair point. No, I wouldn't go skydiving anyway.
Yeah, and how many people lose half their assets?
Oh yeah.
When they get married, so
yeah,
like I don't.
And I think but in saying that, I then think it is important. There's a fine line here. I think it's important to know what's yours.
Going in.
If something, let's say if you have, I don't know, if you're a millionaire, for example, like if I was a millionaire and we were to get married, I would probably have a...
yeah, you'd want to protect that money.
Yeah, what's the thing called?
I know this word. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like
it's
the agreement.
It's a document. It's a prenup.
Yes, I would do that.
A prenuptial agreement.
But
yeah,
I feel like...
I'd do the same thing.
And I also think, though, then that there's a bad standard. Like, people think of prenups as a bad thing.
Mm.
I don't think of that as a bad thing at all.
No, it's protecting what's yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, because...
If you said to me that you wanted to get one, I'd be like, that's fair.
Yeah.
Because, and people are shit when it comes to money as well. Like...
Yeah, people get nasty.
They do.
Yeah. They could backstab each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly.
Interesting that you spoke about, I'm just looking at my notebook for anyone who's watching, just because I had to write down a few things, but about the whole kids thing with marriage. Like, obviously then the mum takes primary care of the child for obvious reasons, but then I think another standard and expectation is that you get married and then have babies.
Yep.
Because of a religious thing.
Yep.
That's still a standard, I would say now.
Yeah, 100%. It's because the child, as far as the religious is concerned, is a bastard child. If the because the parents don't have the same last name when the child is born.
I was a bastard.
I don't know if I was. I don't really care.
But see, I don't care.
I know you don't care.
Yeah, I don't care at all, and I think that we're on the same page for that. Anyway,
I think it doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
It's
if you have a child with someone, you would hope then that they're not going to leave you.
Yeah.
Because of that. So, like, you're pretty stuck then.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bad word, but you know what I mean. Like, yeah, you're going to be together.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question. Do you think that the man should have any say in... So let's say you got pregnant and you wanted to keep the child and I didn't. As a man, do you think I have any right to tell you what to do with the child in your stomach? And in relation to that, because remember, if you decided you didn't want it, there's nothing I could do to stop you.
Yeah.
Right?
But it is half yours.
It is.
So, yeah,
that's why I'm asking the question.
That's hard.
Yeah.
You do have a right. However, if I decided that I wanted to have it and you didn't, I'd probably be like, well, I'll have the baby by myself.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it's up to you later on if you want to...
Yeah. So, because where I'm coming from with this is I actually heard this kind of interested me because if we had a child, I would obviously stick around. It'd be a dick move not to.
Thanks.
That's a fuckhead thing. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, so let's say you got pregnant and let's say we were in a position where we weren't financially secure. Let's say you get pregnant and you decide you're not financially secure. I can't afford to have this child, therefore I don't want it. But if I don't feel financially secure enough for you to have that child, me being 50% responsible for that child once it's born, I get no say as to whether or not that's a problem.
Yeah, it's pretty...
And I don't even have a good answer for it. It's a very interesting subject because what do you do if, like, I don't get a say?
Well, and it's our body, right?
Exactly,
we're the ones that have to do everything. So I think you have a right to your opinion on it, but at the end of the day, it's our choice.
Yeah. So then, does the man in the relationship then get a choice on whether or not they have any financial responsibility for the child? Because in that first instance, if they decide if it was an accident, like a purely an accident, and they physically couldn't afford to have that child,
then they shouldn't have the child.
you're right. But does the man get any say if the woman really wants it?
I think, depending on how their relationship is, I think
Because it would be a case by case.
yeah, it would be pretty awful. Like, if that was us, for example, and
Hey,
if you
Kelly's watching. I imagine that's Kelly.
if you decided
Kelly
that,
G.
that you didn't want it, and I did, I would probably be like, okay, well, you either stay or you go. And then if you go, then you don't actually get a choice.
Yeah, but then
Like,
do I have...
no, I wouldn't ask you then
Yeah.
for money.
Would you legally be allowed to
To what?
ask me for money? Like, let's say you were like, okay, it's me. Hi, Kelly. Let's say you were... I forgot where I was going with that. You were saying...
Am I legally allowed to ask you for money?
Yeah, because you might go, okay, you can't financially be responsible for this child, and you decide you'd like to walk away. That's fine. We end the relationship. We walk away. Not that that's what's happening, Kelly.
You came in at
You
the
might.
wrong time.
I'm not sure exactly when you got here. Yeah, but basically, yeah, if that happened, and then you walk away, and I'm like, okay, well, she said I've got no financial responsibility, and you turn around and go, DNA test says it's his. Give me some fucking money.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I don't know what the rules are around it. Let's never find out.
Let's never find out. Yeah, but and then where I wanted to come back to with that was if we were married, the same rules could still apply. I would just now be legally.
You would have to.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
However, in that situation, it's if you earn less than I do, you don't have to pay child support.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, so it's whoever earns more pays the other one. I'm pretty sure. As long as they have, like, if they have 50-50 care, that's what would happen. Whoever earns more
Would pay the other.
Yeah.
And what if... Okay, so if you earn more than I did,
And then it's based on...
But what if you earn more than I do, but I only have the kid 2 days a week? Because you see then that you might earn more, but I've got sweet FA to pay for. You know what I mean? Like you're feeding the child every day. You're there when the kid needs school books. You know what I mean?
But it gets so bad. And
It'd
I
be
feel like
so interesting.
I feel like a lot of people, this is a blanket statement, but don't get enough child support. Or the other parent just doesn't pay.
Yeah. Kelly's just said, unless you have a signed document, you'll have a legal obligation, regardless. So there you go. Which is why I think that's a fantastic point as to what we were saying earlier about the marriage not necessarily being what I was saying, because I was saying that it's actually a null and void document by that standard. That because, like Kelly said, unless we had a legally signed up document, I'd have an obligation to look after that child with you, regardless of whether or not we were married. So really, all the marriage does is make it more difficult for us to separate.
Yeah.
Makes us financially intertwined and likely to have to go through lawyers unless we had the prenup to actually sort that issue out.
Which would be so expensive.
So expensive. And you know, like that's the game the lawyers, like let's say you and I, hypothetically again, just so everyone knows that we're having a breakup conversation right here. Hypothetically, so we're arguing, we're relationship's broken down, we're separating and we're married, and I say, like, let's say we have some agreement. We both own the house. For whatever reason, we're trying to argue about splitting the diff.
Yeah.
You know, you might want more of the furniture, and therefore I want to pay you less for the rest of the house, like whatever it happens to be. If I say, if there's like a $5,000 difference in like where we agree, the lawyers will literally like not split that. They'll be like, my client says this, your client says that. And if we were in the same room, we'd be like, well, let's just split the diff, $2,500, whatever, go separate ways, all this is over. The lawyers won't budge because they know that if they don't budge, they come back to us, we have to repay fees, and then everything has to happen all over again, and we get charged over and over again.
And it's expensive.
Yeah, so like the whole legal system is broken in that sense. You'd have to sign away your parental rights before the baby is born.
If you were married or if you...
I think Kelly's talking about if we weren't married and you didn't want legal, or maybe if you are married that wouldn't really make sense, would
No,
it?
it would have to be if you're not.
Unless you're in the process of a divorce, then you wouldn't be able to sign
It's all
away.
so messy.
Yeah. And you'd have to be a pretty shitty human to sign away the rights of your child.
Yeah.
Unless you went into that with no intention, like if it was like a one-night stand or like anything like that where there was no intent in the first place, even then you'd feel pretty shitty. I reckon you would. I'm not even a kid person. I think you'd feel pretty shitty as a human. I think you just wouldn't feel very good about that situation, knowing that a kid's growing up without a dad. It's kind of your fault. That's how I would feel.
Yeah. Some people don't care.
No. We're actually 20 minutes in.
Okay.
It'd be a massive legal battle. Yeah.
Yeah. We
What was the other one?
The other one was work, which I think kind of like intertwines with everything that we've been talking about, because like stay-at-home mums, and like I think that that's a big thing where there's definitely been a shift in the last, I'd say, like I want to say 5 to 10 years, but that's obviously how long I've kind of been in like
Business
proper,
workplace.
yeah, like proper jobs.
It was always a proper job.
But more of like the corporate world.
Yeah.
I think that women having careers over kids is becoming not like more normalized.
Yeah.
Whereas before, that wasn't a thing. Like they would have to be stay-at-home mums. They weren't allowed. Not that they weren't allowed, but like they couldn't really have careers.
Yeah.
You didn't see any women like CEOs.
Look
or
at your
anything
friend
like that.
Sarah. She's so smart, brilliant, and she's a nurse. Kelly knows Sarah, obviously, better than I do. But like at the moment, she can't go to work. There's no way.
Yeah.
Like she is so tied up and she's exhausted raising. I don't even want to say his name. I don't know. It's on the internet. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Looking after a child all day is exhausting and it's time consuming. And she's the only one that can do it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like the dad can help, but then so this is the thing, right? Stay-at-home dads versus stay-at-home mums.
I support the idea of a stay-at-home dad, but depending on the child,
And I think depending on the age as well, because obviously
Yeah.
like the mum has to be there for at least, depending on how long, if they breastfeed, at least 6 months.
yeah, if they're breastfeeding, it has to be.
Yeah.
She has to be there
they
at the
can
start.
they can pump as well, but like being a stay-at-home dad, that would just be
Yeah,
it'd be fine. Like it'd be fine, but I just don't think.
it's definitely not the same.
No.
I was thinking about this the other week. I can't remember who I was talking to about it, but I think chemically, like in your brain, I think men are less capable of, and hear me out before I finish this, less capable of like the deeper level of love that a mother feels for their child. I think that when a father has love for their child, it like they to the point where they would die for that child. Like I believe most parents. I don't have a child, so I can't really comment on it. But to the point that father would die for their kids, like that's the most they're capable of love. Like if you think of the amount of chemical that's produced in their brain that tells them I'm in love with this child and I'll do anything to protect it.
Yeah.
I think that women have a stronger whatever that is.
Because we've grown them.
You physically had to grow them. There's just a different like level of connection.
Yeah, but
and
then
I think
I wonder as well, and I actually haven't spoken to anyone about this, like any friends that I know that have kids about this, like the difference between and how the dad would feel, like a newborn baby, right? So the mum is so connected with that child, you're breastfeeding them and you're spending all of this time. The dad can't really do that. Like the only time that you get a cuddle when you're burping them or whatever. Like that must be hard.
yeah, it's
too.
a very,
and
it's
I
a
feel
different.
like
Well, you're saying hard for the dad?
yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it is because I think chemically he wants to then go gather resources for that child.
Yeah.
In today's day and age, that's money. But
Yeah.
like, back in the day, he would have had to
Hunter-gatherer,
go, hunter-gatherer, because that's where our
can't read what's
instincts
on
go
the
from.
screen.
I was going to read it out for you. Whoever earns more should work personally. So that's Kelly thinks that whoever should. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to provide the child the best financial gain. I read something about that today. Women's brains change empathetically during pregnancy. Fuck, look at me go. Like structurally change to know what the baby needs and wants, and the man doesn't. So that's what I swear that like all those instincts are like built in from way back in the day.
Yeah.
Which is maybe why we have a hard time letting go of some of our societal standards, because a lot of that old school stuff still fits today. Like the idea of the hunter-gatherer, like it works. Whether or not people agree or disagree with the idea of the woman staying at home looking after a child and the man going to work, for the longest time that worked really well.
Yeah.
Because no one else can raise and give birth to that child. So that's just how it ends up being.
Yeah.
Not that it can't be done any other way, but it was just so convenient and it worked for so long that that's just how it is. Which is, I think, why we hold on to and gravitate to some of those older standards, like getting married and that sort of stuff. We didn't really move into the workplace. Isn't that what you had written down?
Yeah, I was thinking more just like career-wise.
Okay.
That, yeah, like obviously women are still underpaid. We're still underpaid in the same jobs that men were doing. I was actually talking to someone about this the other day. I can't remember who it was, but we were talking about like my new job and salary and stuff.
Yeah.
And basically they said that as a woman, we just kind of accept a lower amount or whatever they offer us, and we go, oh, I'm just going to use it as an experience, and like I'm going to, you know, take the experience and like be grateful for it. Whereas a man would be like, no, pay me more than that. Yeah. And that's the difference between us, like between the genders.
That Jordan Peterson that I've been listening to says exactly that. So he said that women are more agreeable because in the past, so if men had a disagreement, that leads to war. Like that's the inevitable increase in, no, you give me what I want, no, you give me what I want. It escalates to physical violence. And then with women, they solve everything by talking it out, which is why women, and I'm not saying that I know this as like a fact, I'm not saying that I've studied, and I'm just saying from what I've heard, the reason women are known to gossip, if you will, for lack of a better term, is because that's physically how they solve their problems, is by talking to everybody about it and getting the best idea or way to resolve it. Whereas, you know, men have a different way of, you know, resolving issues.
Yeah, it's called don't talk about it, or just punch each other.
Not necessarily, but different problem solving strategies.
Yeah.
And then that gave men the advantage in the workplace. The other thing I heard about that was, while yes, some men are paid more than some women to work the same job, men are also more likely to, so like let's say you compare like two, like men and women, like general practitioners, just your general doctor.
Yeah.
A woman is more likely to stay at a workplace, receive the same pay, so that she can be near her friends and family, because women are empathetic and they enjoy the company of the people they love.
Yeah.
And a man is more likely to do a 2-week stint out in the middle of nowhere and get paid 2.5 times as much to do that same job in buttfuck nowhere, because they couldn't get anyone there, so they had to pay you a lot. So like that, in the discussion I heard, that was like a large contributing factor to why men are paid more than women for the same job.
But then, depending on also the circumstances, right? If that woman was a single lady, she might do it.
She might.
Why not? But if she has a family, you're not going to pack up your whole family.
Even if she doesn't have a family, she's still less likely to leave for that job. Like Kelly actually did it. Kelly went to Airlie.
Yeah.
But I would say that she's a unique individual in that respect, because I just don't think. No, sorry, it's not that I don't think. I think statistically, more men are likely to do that than women, which could leave. I still agree with you though that a lot of women are paid.
I have a couple of friends that have done that though.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
means you've got strong, independent friends.
We are strong, independent women. I would say that it's becoming more of a thing now, which I think is really good, and it's good to see more women in higher roles. One thing I think is BS is the fact that within the army, and I think like Navy and whatever, they lower the tests for women. Yeah,
I was actually going to say something about something similar to that, that in the fire service, that there's the expectation is lowered, which I do and don't agree with. I have opposing thoughts in that respect. Speaking as someone who has done it sucked. I did everything to get back ASAP. Yeah. Whereas I got friends like Jared, who he he does like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or 1 week on, 1 week off, and he applies for jobs where it's like 1 month off, 1 month on, 3 weeks off. Like he looks forward to that opportunity to get away for as long as possible and then come back for as long, like,
because he would earn a decent amount
exactly,
to go away.
But would a woman have that same don't give a fuck, just go and spend 3 weeks on a mine site?
I think it depends on what they want. Are they very career driven? Then yes, maybe.
Yeah.
If they're not, and they're more just happy in their job, they want to stay close to their family and friends, then no.
Statistically, what do you think out of those two are more likely for most women?
I think there's a shift now.
Yeah.
I think it's becoming more like 50-50.
Which way do you think it still leans? Where do you think it is right now?
I don't know. I'm thinking corporate.
I would still say it's leaning to stay home.
I personally wouldn't do it.
Yes. Yeah. But we have an example right here, Kelly, who did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think also because I've seen how hard it is
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like Kelly said, she did everything she could to get back as soon as possible. Yeah. And with that fitness standard that you brought up, that's always been super interesting to me, because as someone who was never big, to have the standard raised for someone else when I was essentially the same physical competitiveness of them but held to the highest standard, I see the good and bad of both sides. Like, you don't necessarily need to be able to pass that exact physical to do exactly what you would do at a fire. You know what I mean? Like the standard is there, but you look at half the guys that have been in the service for 30 years and they couldn't redo what they did in that test, so should they be excluded? And the women who would beat those guys who have been in the service for 30 years, granted they have all the experience and the technical know-how and the muscle memory of using the equipment, which all helps. But if you've got a physical fitness test to get in, should that not be upheld?
I think it should.
So do I. I'll quickly read this. I did everything to get back ASAP. I think it still borders that 50-50. I think it's still really split between stay home or corporate. Yeah, I think it's still leaning that way.
I also feel like as I get older, I'm more drawn to like family.
Yeah.
And being like, it sounds so cliche, but like cooking and like raising the kids and like.
I'm praying for the day I come home and you're wine drunk cooking, baking cookies. I'm praying for the day. That'd be a great time.
I'd eat them all probably before you go home.
I still wouldn't be mad about it.
Yeah.
Would you feel ripped off if a fitness standard was moved for you, or would you do anything? Would you do anything to, like, if you were struggling to meet a fitness standard, would you still strive for the higher level of that fitness standard, or would you just be aiming for that minimum standard?
I'd probably want to go a little bit above the minimum, but I wouldn't want to be like top end.
You wouldn't want to be?
Would. Yeah.
You wouldn't want to be top end?
No. Depending on what it was. But if there was, so I think, what is it in the army, like, let's say, I don't know, men have to do 40 push-ups, women have to do 10.
Or 20. I think
like,
it's 20.
Sorry, no, I can also do that. So, no, I don't think that that's right.
40? Like you could do 40?
I would try and do 40.
Yeah.
But if I don't know.
See, for me, I don't see the problem with it, because I know women that can.
Yeah.
Like, I have friends who are in the Air Force, who, I say friends in the Air Force, there's a friend that I have who's in the Air Force, and she's always posting on, like, Instagram, like, her working out with all the other guys that she works with.
Yeah.
And she's fit as fuck. Like, she comes on the fire ground, she's fit as fuck. No drama. She's never had struggle with any of the fitness tests. I think she beat me in the 5K walk.
Anyone would beat you in a walk.
Whoa. But you see what I'm saying? Like, there's, like, it can be done.
Yeah.
It absolutely can be done. It says...
I don't have my glasses on, as you can see.
But then that starts a biological debate, which is a really good point.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does start a biological debate.
But then I think it also then starts a debate on equality. Like gender, like women are asking to have all of these things and to have a fair say with men, we should be paid the same as you, we should be treated the same as you, we should have the same rights as you, but I'm not going to do the same level of fitness. I'm not going to have the same level of fitness as you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
For people who want to go in service with a minimum hang on. Men are biologically stronger than women. Yeah. Straight up. Like that's what Kelly, because I know you can't quite read it. That's what Kelly just said. For people who want to get in the service on a minimum, who want to get in the service on a minimum service, yeah. And you're right, it starts a huge biological debate because we are so physically different.
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting about that, and this might be a subject for another podcast, but with that pay debate,
yeah,
or the just equality in general, like the idea of men opening doors for women and it being seen as disrespectful, as if she can't open it for herself. Have you heard?
I have heard that, but I think
sort of
it's
shit?
nice.
Yeah, so men kind of get ripped off in this respect because we have a expectation to be gentlemen. We have this expectation that we stand in a and I agree with it. That you know, if I'm on a bus or a train, not that I ever do that, but if I was, and there's women that are standing, that I should stand for them.
Yeah.
That's like just a standard that I was raised to. If we're all on a boat and that boat starts sinking, who gets off the boat first? Women and children.
Yeah, it's the same with planes.
Yeah, if
because we can.
If Australia went to war, who do you think they're going to be rallying for?
Like who would go out?
Yeah, who's like yeah. So there's like and don't get me wrong, I think that's how it should be. That's how I would want it. Because I think everything that we make decisions about needs to be based. The decision needs to be based on competence, not equality. Because do you want a CEO who's the right gender, or do you want them the right competence?
Competence.
Because out of Lindsay and Renee, my bosses, like Renee's the CEO because she's far better at managing. Because I know Lindsay would already have spent all that money on trucks. Like if it wasn't that way, we'd be wrecked. So that's the competence debate. Is like that's who you'd want. You'd want those people in those seats. Lindsay does the operations of the fire teams and everything, and Renee makes sure that all the bills I can't even name it, all the stuff she does.
Yeah, she does all of that.
Yeah, but no way. Yeah, but all the management of the admin, all the management of I can't even begin. Like the amount of shit that she has to do on a daily basis is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that the trucks have fuel, that we get paid, that we have accommodation. I've never been stranded. I've never been hungry. And that is all managed by her. And if it wasn't, I'd fear for my well-being when I was out in those places. And I know that if you can't just like go, well, you know, it's good that she's a woman as a CEO, like it was whoever was most competent.
Yeah.
And so when you have something like going to war, do you want equality or do you want competence? And I'm not saying that women can't be competent in it, but you can get dudes like Shaquille O'Neal, Shaquille O'Neal, they're two different people, I'm pretty sure, basketball player. Like, if Shaq stands up, my head is like at his knees. There's just no women that are built like that.
Yeah.
It's just a different thing.
Yeah.
Men are biologically stronger than women. For people who want to get into service, too many double standards because there's a lot of women have different views on feminism. Yeah, you're right.
That's such a big one.
Such a big one.
Yeah.
Maybe we should.
I was going to say.
Start writing it down.
We should do that as a topic.
Definitely. I did a thing here, babe. Just so you know, should we wrap the podcast up?
Yeah, I think so. Actually.
All right. So we'll wrap it up here. We'll come back next week.
Yeah.
We'll have a better plan on what the subjects are going to be next week. I'm going to stay live for a bit as I do some editing.
Sure.
But just so you know, we'll just say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.